Okay, so let's look at Prep Test 13 Game 2. This is on page 15 of the big simple ordering set. Uh, in this game, they give us 5 variables, H, I, K, N, and V, and we are supposed to schedule these people as contestants on a television show. It says 5 people are to be scheduled, so it looks like everybody has to go at least one time. And then it also says that uh, there's going to be one person per day. So we have 5 people, we have 5 days. Everybody's got to go one time, and there's only going to be one person per day. So that makes this a one-to-one linear game. So in that sense, it looks like, since we only have 5 people especially, and because it's one-to-one, it looks like it could be a relatively straightforward game. Um, but we could be wrong about that. So let's see what kind of rules they give us. The first rule says that Nancy is scheduled for Monday. So I just did that as a no-go down here. Nancy cannot go on Monday. The next rule says if Harry is scheduled for Monday, then Nancy is scheduled for Friday. That's a conditional rule, and it's here. So it's just saying if you put Harry on Monday, you've got to put Nancy on Friday. Uh, the next rule says if Nancy is scheduled for Tuesday, then Iris is scheduled for Monday. So this rule is just like the rule above it. It involves uh, different days and different people, but the structure is it's a conditional rule saying that if you put one of these people on a given day, then you have to put a different one of these people on a different day. And then the last rule says that Kate is scheduled for the next day after the day for which Victor is scheduled. It's a little bit it's worded a little bit funny, but it's basically a block, right? They're saying that Kate is right after Victor, the next day after the day for which Victor is scheduled. They could have worded it more easily, but they clearly wanted to make it a little bit complicated here to sort of test your reading comprehension. Okay, so these are the rules, and we already talked about why N is a no-go for Monday. They gave us that flat out. And then hopefully it's clear to you that V is a no-go for Friday because of this block, right? So V is a no-go on Friday because K has to come after it. And then by the same token, K is a no-go on Monday because the V has to come before it, okay? So hopefully these no-goes down here make sense to you. And that's about all we can probably do on our setup because we don't have that many rules, and half of them, 2 out of the 4 rules that they give us, are conditional. So we could try to play those conditionals out. That might be one thing. If you were uncomfortable going into the questions with uh, such a sparse setup, then you might try to play those rules out. And I'll do that in other games, take the opportunity to play some hypotheticals out. My guess is that we'll probably get the chance to play them out during the game, and so on this particular video, I'm just going to go ahead and go into the questions because I know that is the way that a lot of people would do this game, and so let's see how that strategy works. Uh, so number 7 says Victor can be scheduled for any day except. So we already know that Victor can't be scheduled for Friday. We have that no-go right here. So that would be the answer here. And we would really just go straight to it. The answer is E. Hopefully you're able to do that question very quickly, save you a lot of time, and leave you some time either for the harder questions if they come up, or hopefully for another game. Okay. Number 8 says, if Iris is scheduled for the next day after Harry, which one of the following lists all the days, any of which could be the day for which Harry is scheduled? So Iris is scheduled for the next day after Harry. Okay, so for this particular question, I'm just going to write this up here. This is what I'm going to do for all the local questions. I'm going to write it right in the setup, but as I've said before, you should create your own little local diagram. Okay, so again, the prompt says that Iris is right after Harry, so it's a block. So we have like Harry and Iris. Make this bigger in a second and turn it blue. Okay, and this is a block. Okay, so and so let's figure out what this has to do with anything. Okay, so if Iris is going to go after Harry, remember that we also have the VK block, right? So maybe it's helpful for us to put that here too. I mean, we don't have to, but because we have it written down elsewhere, but it would be helpful. Okay, so we have these 2 blocks. So who's left not to be in a block? Well, we've taken up H, I, V, and K, so N is the only person who's not going to be in a block. Okay. Now, does this help us place any of these people exactly? I think it's probably hard to see if it indeed does lead to an exact placement. I think at first it would be hard to see. Let's remind ourselves what the question says. It says which one of the following could be the day for which. No, actually, they want us to give them the full list of days on which Harry could be scheduled. Okay, so let's look through and figure out where Harry can be scheduled. So we originally Harry was pretty wide open. Now that they put him as part of this block, we know that for this particular question that Harry is not going to be able to go here, right? For sure on Friday. Harry can't go on Friday because of the straightforward not law associated with this block. I has to come after, so if Harry was on Friday, there would be no room for I to come after. Okay. Um, Now there's let's see, is that the only place where Harry can't go, or could Harry go somewhere else's? Is there somewhere else that would create a problem? So the one rule that we have about Harry is here. It says if Harry's on Monday, then N has to be on Friday. So would that create a problem? If we put Harry on Monday, we'd have to put I on Tuesday, and the rule says if we put Harry on Monday, we have to put N on Friday. So let's just go ahead and put it in and check. Okay, so Harry here, that leads to N over here. And of course, because of the block, I would go here, which would put the other block, the VK block, over here. Okay, so is this an acceptable solution or is it problematic? And it looks to be an acceptable solution, right? Harry could go on Monday and is on Friday. The VK block is still together, and this rule over here is not a problem. Let me just make sure I didn't violate any of my not laws because, uh, yeah, it looks fine. So, so far we know that Harry can go on Monday, and we know he can't go on Friday. Let's take that off the board and try to think, could Harry go on Tuesday? Because we do want to be careful here because we could try to do this question too quickly and get it wrong. Uh, if Harry went on Tuesday, then I would go on Wednesday, uh, in which case V would go on Thursday and K would go on Friday, and then N would have to go on Monday. But N can't go on Monday, right? So we see now that Harry actually cannot go on Tuesday. And again, I'm not going to draw it in. Sometimes you want to try to keep it in your head, although generally we do want to use our pencil if we're all unsure if we can keep it in our head or not. Just use your pencil. But I think this one we can keep in our head. If we put H on Tuesday, okay, then we'd have to put I on Wednesday, we'd have to put V on Thursday, and K on Friday. That all works out fine. But then the problem is that N is the person who's left over, and N would have to go on Monday. But we know that N can't go on Monday. Okay? So H actually cannot go on Tuesday. Um, so the places where H can't go so far, I should actually leave these up here for the while I'm doing this question, so you can see the places that we've said H cannot go so far are on Friday and Tuesday. We know H can go on Monday. Let's check really quickly whether H can go on Wednesday. So if H went on Wednesday, then I would go on Thursday. The VK block would have to go here on Monday and Tuesday. So it'd be H, I, VK, N. Does that check out? There's no problem with the HI. There's no problem with the VK. And then the N would go here. So are any of these conditional rules triggered? Let's see. No, right? Because H is not on Monday and N is not on Tuesday. So uh, that would be okay. So H could go on Wednesday. So far we know H can go on Monday or Wednesday. And now let's see if H can go on Thursday. That would seem to be the last one we need to think about. Okay? If we put H on Thursday, then I would be on Friday, and the VK block would need to go somewhere in the front. So H is on Thursday, I is on Friday. The VK block needs to go somewhere in the front, and we just need to make sure that N does not go on Monday. So that would mean that we would need to put the VK block on Monday and Tuesday so that N could then go on Wednesday. Because if we put the VK block on Tuesday and Wednesday, then N would have to go on Monday, and that creates the problem. So this one got a little bit complicated, so let me just draw it out to make sure you're with me. Okay, HI, this is what we want to see, whether it works or not. And what I was saying is, if you try to put the VK block here, then the N would have to go here, and that's a problem. But as long as you put the V, as long as you put the V here, that was a mistake. As long as you put the V here and the K here, then it looks like you can put the N here, and that would be fine. It doesn't trigger any of these conditional rules. We've obeyed the blocks that they gave us, and so that looks like it should be fine. So it looks like H can not go on Tuesday or Friday, but it could go on Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So we look for an answer that says, and so when we look at the answers, what we were looking for again was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that shows up in answer choice E. So that E should be our answer here. Okay? And that question was not that easy because it was one of these questions where you needed to know all the places where H could go given this extra information they gave us. And a lot of times people do have problems coming up with every place. They feel a little bit uncertain or lacking confidence. My advice would be that when you originally start working these kinds of problems, take your time, make sure, build your confidence up that you really can figure it all out, that you can come up with every last place where H can go and get rid of all the places where H can't go, build up your confidence, and then you'll be able to go faster and faster. The one good thing about this was that there was only 5 spaces, so that made our life a little bit easier because we didn't have to, since we were going step by step, we were testing H on Monday and then again on Tuesday and then again on Wednesday, we didn't have to check like 7 possible spaces, we only had to check 5. Okay, so let's go to the next question then. Let me take this off the board. Okay, so the next question is number 9. It says, Kate is scheduled for Wednesday. Which one of the following could be true? So it's a local question. We want to put Kate in on Wednesday and take the analysis from there. And we may not be able to go all the way through because it's a could be true question. So we just want to go as far as we can and then look at the answers and see which ones would fit with the analysis that we've done. So if K goes on Wednesday, this block says that V would have to go on Tuesday. So that's fine. And now we've used up V and K, so we have H, I, and N left. And we want to see if, what restrictions are going to be here. So the N cannot go here. Okay, so we have H, I, and N left, but the N can't go here. So this is going to have to either be H or I. Now, you could try to do this all in one line, and I've said this before, you can try to keep it in your head. My instinct for most of the students that I come across would be to just break it up into 2 possibilities. So we wrote HI, but what we could do instead is just put one where we put the H here, okay, and another where we put the I here, and then, we know the VK is going to be in the same place no matter whether it's H or I in the front. So let's consider these 2 templates or scenarios really quickly. And I don't think it should take that long. And the reason I wanted to break it out was because I know that if I do break it out, then in one of the cases at least, this rule is going to apply, right? In the bottom case where H is in Monday, then this rule applies. So that means that at least in this template I can do some more action, or I can put some other stuff down, which I would not have been able to do had I left that as an HI dual option, because this rule only applies when it's H. So the person who's in this bottom scenario where H is on Monday, the person who would be on Thursday is whoever's left over, which is going to be I. So I would go here, okay? And in this case, it looks like if I's on Monday, then who do we have left? H and N. Do we have any problems with H or N going on Thursday or Friday? It doesn't look like we do. So this would, in this scenario, this would be a dual option. Okay, so now we have a really good setup to look, and we can probably go through the answers pretty quickly and figure out which one of these could be true. So the first A says Iris is scheduled for Friday. We look at Friday. There's no possibility for Iris to be on Friday, so we get rid of A. Nancy's scheduled for Tuesday. No, we know that V is going to be scheduled for Tuesday. C says Nancy is scheduled for an earlier day than the day for which Harry is scheduled. Nancy is earlier than Harry. That is possible right here, right? Okay, so that would be our answer. We can put Nancy on Thursday and Harry on Friday. Okay, I'm just up against the time limit, so I'll put the rest of the questions on the next video.